Hey everybody, Brandon Grysko here with the law firm Fausone Bohn, and I'm here with Bob Carroll from Permanent Solutions Labor Consultants. And Bob is going to talk to us today about a Department of Labor press release where they announced some new proposed rules related to how labor organizations have to report their financial conditions. But before we jump into that, Bob, how's everything going today?
Everything's going good. You caught me at a time, a rare time, where I have some free time during a union campaign here in Chicago. So, yeah, I'm in this beautiful hotel room with the most amazing color scheme ever to bring justice to your show.
That's the life of a working man, right?
Right, exactly.
So, Bob, what can you tell us about the new rule that we're talking about here, the related to Form LM2?
Well, let's digress a bit about what LM2 is. I'm on this campaign here in Chicago, and ironically, after you asked me to come on and talk about this, we're having an issue with an LM2 or a point that I'm bringing to the employees based on an LM2. An LM2 form is basically the way that a union is supposed to report to the federal government and through the Department of Labor, their expenses and the way money is dispersed so that union members can know where their dues money is going. And traditionally, over many years, we've used the LM2s during union campaigns to demonstrate exactly where their dues money goes. However, one of the problems that we've seen for years is that the unions have a crafty way of reporting on the LM2s. Now think about LM2 as kind of like a tax form for you and I. The unions have to disclose this information. But it gets convoluted. You look at the UAW system. Now, the UAW has their locals, but they also report on LM2s through their regions for people that may be involved in local campaigns. So it's really hard to track where the actual money is coming and going.
So as a member, you might not necessarily be able to easily identify, hey, are my dues staying local or are they going to sort of the larger, well, if you say UAW or Teamsters or whoever, is that kind of part of the problem?
Yeah, most members don't even know what an LM2 is. In fact, during this campaign, there's several people that belong to the very union that's coming after them now. They belong to them in another life and spent basically an entire career working in the union and had no idea what an LM2 form is. And that's kind of sad because when you are paying your dues money, you do want to know where it's going.
Well, you hope it's going to somewhere that's going to benefit you, right? As a union member, that's what the union's supposed to be for.
Exactly. And LM2 has a lot of very important information. It tells you how many union members are in a local, how much their dues are, what initiation fees are. It tells you who the officers are, how much they make. It tells you they have to disclose any expenditures that they have. So you can actually go into an LM2 and see how much is spent on constitutional conventions, how much is spent on, we had a case where they spent many thousands of dollars on beer and hot dogs and hamburgers that didn't go to any members.
I was going to say, hopefully for the members, but it doesn't.
Well, I mean, it went to the members, but not to the people that we were on an organizing campaign at the time. Right. Now, the members weren't the ones benefiting from that. It was the people in the international or the local that actually worked for the local. So what has to happen, and I think it's a good thing that they're looking at having some more transparency in the LM2s, is a crackdown on how that information is reported. And ironically, like I said, on this case that I'm working now, we found a person involved in the organizing of this case got a slap on the wrist, and you would think it'd be more than a slap on the wrist, but got a slap on the wrist from the Department of Labor for misclassifying where the money is in the LM2. In other words, when they did an audit, they found several areas, like for instance, they have a budget for automobiles and the expense is covered by the union. Well, that was not listed in the proper category. So they got a slap on the wrist on that. And then there was money that was unaccounted for. They still got a slap on the wrist. At the end of the day, if we can increase transparency and make it so that the average Joe can look at an LM2, because the international LM2 for a union, for example, is probably about that thick when you print it out.
Wow.
It's an enormous document. A locals is probably about that thick. And it's very hard for the average Joe to go through and understand exactly what they're looking at. Now, any more transparency will definitely help the employee. It would help employers in explaining where their money's going, and it will hold the unions accountable so we don't get into situations like the UAW is facing right now. How many
Yeah,
people
and in fact, as a matter of fact, let's talk a little bit about that because I think kind of reading between the lines here on the Department of Labor's press release, it seems to be pretty clear that they're trying to increase transparency for that exact reason because of somewhat recent union scandals that we've seen. Can you talk about some of the most maybe newsworthy union scandals that we've seen recently?
Yeah, obviously it's the UAW. The UAW is in hot water, and people continue to topple. And more than a dozen. I think the last count I heard was 13, 14, maybe even more are either in jail or facing indictment right now. And if they had more transparency and they had somebody actually watchdogging these people, these unions, it would be a great service to everybody involved. People paying dues and the unions themselves, quite frankly, to keep them out of trouble.
And this is something that you're able to talk about when you go in and handle a union campaign for the employer. You talk about how, hey, unions have been caught doing this type of stuff before, and they're actively, in some cases at least, trying not to be transparent. And although I don't know for sure, I assume that they're opposed to this rule and the increased financial reporting. Have you heard anything from the unions with respect to that?
I can't tell you what they're saying on the inside, but if I had a crystal ball, I would say some unions may be more reluctant to embrace the new proposal that you're talking
Sure.
about. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. The Department of Labor is going to do what they want to do, and if they unroll this, the unions are going to have to comply. And even for me, it'll change the whole way that I have to dissect the information when I'm doing a presentation during a union campaign. Because right now, I know exactly where to look. Once they change it,
Right.
I'm gonna have to do my homework, and hopefully, it's even more clear. Because right now, there's certain things that are lumped together that shouldn't be lumped together. Representational activities. What does that mean?
Yeah, it's a pretty vague, seems to be a pretty vague, broad category. So I could see where that would be problematic.
Right, exactly. So at the end of the day, Brandon, I think this is a good thing. And, fingers crossed, I hope it happens. I think everyone believes in transparency. Hey, listen, when we do campaigns, we're dealing with employers and we are preaching to them during the campaign that transparency and good communication is everything. Why shouldn't it be any different on the union side?
Absolutely. And I think if it's a best practice for an employer to be transparent with their employees, then I think that probably the unions can benefit from the same type of relationship and the same type of engagement that you guys preach to your employers.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's key. So yeah, let's look at, right now this is just a proposal.
Right.
Let's hope that they do something. I know that the UAW is nervous. They were facing and probably still are facing the possibility of a federal takeover. And that's based on what the government found in LM2s and their investigation.
Right. Good. Well, hopefully this proposed rule ends up rolling out. I think it's open for comment right now. But thanks for joining us today, Bob. I know you're busy out on the campaign there, but I appreciate you joining us. And for anybody that's interested in contacting Bob or I, contact information will be on the next frame. So thanks again, Bob, for joining us, and everybody have a good day.
Always a pleasure, Brandon. Thank you.